Men used to go to war. Men used to go to war, okay? And now they just beat their fucking dicks and talk about, like, oh my god, who would win between 100 guys and a fucking gorilla? Enlist, please! Oh.
If you want to know what it's like, and I can only speak as a woman that is dating men, what it is like on the dating scene right now, I'm going to tell you this story. I matched with this guy and we seemed to be getting along well. This was recent. This was like half an hour ago. And we were chit-chatting, had a couple of back and forths, and pretty quickly he was like, do you want to have a quick phone call? Like, do you want to see if we like actually vibe on the phone? And I was like, you know what? Sure, like, why not? Let's have a quick phone call. So he gave me his number so that I could basically call him and put 141 in front of my number so that it came up as unknown or blocked. Because, you know, we're trying to protect ourselves out here. I'd only known this guy for maybe 10 minutes. I'd been matched with him at this point. So we were chit-chatting on the phone. It seemed like it was going okay. We were, you know, both establishing that we were looking for something more serious, that, you know, we were saying what we did for work, and it was all the basic getting to know each other questions. He then told me, he was like, I hope you're prepared because I've not had sex in 7 months. And I was like, oh, how come? And he was like, oh, I've just been working on myself and it hasn't been a focus. And I was like, you know what? Cool. Like, cool. You do you. I was like, I'd be losing my mind at that point, but more power to you. And he was like, oh, really? Like, you know, it's a green flag that you like sex. What's your favourite position? And I was like, that's a very intimate question for someone that you've known for like 10 minutes. At which point he then started grunting. Like, you fucking know, you know. But he was like grunting. I was like, what the fuck's going on? And he was like, oh, do you have 5 more minutes just to hang around so that I can come? I literally went, what the fuck? And hung up the phone. That's fucking violating. That's literally sexual harassment. I've reported him on the app and blocked him. And luckily I called him from like 141 so he doesn't have my number. I've also blocked his. But that's what it's like. That's literally what it's like. And the more that I try to date, the more I'm like, fuck this.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Let's start with the fact that you're on a dating app where most people are just looking for something physical. It's an environment full of chads who are there with a clear intention, something quick, no strings attached. And yes, there are women who are into that too. So, if a guy talks to you with those intentions, it shouldn't be a surprise. That's how the game works. The drama you made could have been solved in 2 simple steps: hang up and block. Easy. But no, you decide to report the guy just for being upfront about what he wanted. Seriously? What did you expect to find in a place like that? Everybody knows that when things don't go the way some women want, they try to screw the guy over out of spite.
At what age did you wake up and realize that you no longer wanted to be a strong, Black, independent woman? And this can apply to white women and men as well, because I've definitely heard this term coined by a lot of people. But for me, it was about 6 months ago. I legit woke up, realized that I've slayed all of my goals. I have my career, I have my house, I have the car, I have everything else, and I don't want it anymore. If you can't relate to what I'm saying, then you can't relate to what I'm saying. But for me, at 32 and a couple more months left till I'm 33, I realized that my priorities are changing. And now I want to be a housewife. I want to raise children. I don't want responsibilities. I don't want to have a mortgage. Actually, I do want a mortgage, but I don't want it to be in my name. I honestly want to relinquish responsibility to an able-bodied man. Keyword, able-bodied man. And this is such a new thing for me. And this is epiphany. And this is something that I've been struggling with. Why is my lip gloss not opening? Why am I struggling with my lip gloss right now? Let's pause this video so that I can... Never mind. So, this is something that I've honestly been struggling with because it's something that I've never thought that I would get to the point in my life where I no longer identified as a strong, Black, independent woman.
This is the conclusion many women come to. They realize there's no point in having a 5-bedroom house if they only use one. They were sold the narrative of build your career, make money, travel. But the only constant on that path is loneliness. In their 30s, the silence of an empty house weighs more than any achievement. They don't say it out loud, but they feel it. Having everything but no one to share it with isn't success. The problem is that when they hit the wall, that's when the reality check hits hard. They want a man, they want a family, they want companionship, but it's no longer that easy. Weekends feel long. Solo trips turn into meaningless routines. And while they keep searching, their friends are already married, with kids, in a different stage of life. She's at the wall. That's why we say the wall doesn't forgive.
And it's crazy because I remember growing up or in my 20s, I would hear of women who would go out, they would seek these fabulous careers, attorneys, doctors, lawyers, whatever it is, whatever they wanted. And then all of a sudden they would get married and they would give it all up. And I used to think, what the actual, who does all this to give it up to be a stay-at-home mother? And then I turned 32 and a half, and I realized it is I. I am that woman. I yearn to be a stay-at-home mom. I no longer want to take on all the responsibilities. I want to delegate it to a man. I want to live a soft life. And a small part of me feels like I've worked for that. I've proven to myself, I feel like I've proven to my parents, I've proven to the world that I can do it. And now that that has been proven, I no longer want it. And at 32, I think men have reached their peak of whatever it is that they do, and they've caught up. And I think that I'm finally comfortable with letting them take the lead. I just need a applicant. Does anybody else feel that way? Am I the only one that feels that way? Sound off below.
If you look at the comments on this video, you'll be surprised by how many women actually support this change. But it's also obvious how many feminists are against anything related to family. The truth is, when women are with a masculine, strong, providing man, many of them want to stop working and take care of their children. They long for it. But no one tells them that without being labeled weak or submissive. It's what we've been saying all along. They're being deceived. They were sold the idea that more money, more travel, and more independence equals happiness, and many end up alone, hitting the wall, with a cat, watching life go by through a screen. At work, they're just another employee. At home, they're the center of everything. Having a child waiting for you means more than any office ever will. But if you say that, they call you a misogynist. It doesn't matter, because time reveals everything. And as always, the wall doesn't forgive.
Women.
What's your age?
32.
What do you do for work?
I'm a divorce lawyer.
How long have you been a divorce attorney?
Since 2016, I've been practicing, and then 2017 officially barred.
Do you think that sexless marriages can work?
No. And 100% every single time, I mostly work for men. So every single time they're in a consult with me, I'm always hearing, I haven't had sex in 10 years. I haven't had sex in 5 years. I haven't had sex in 15 years. And I'm like, here we go again. The sex talk every single time. So it's like, you need to make sure you're doing it 2 to 4 times is ideal.
So a lack of sex in these marriages is the most common theme that you're seeing when they end.
Yeah, because it's connected to more of that. It's not just physical. It's like, all right, well, if you're not into someone and you're disgusted by them and you're pissed off at them, you're not going to be having sex with them, right? Because you're going to be unattracted to them. You're going to be irritated and you're not going to be into them. So you're not going to be banging them.
So why do you think people stay in these relationships for so long?
I think they stay in it just because it's comfortable and it's easy and it's really hard. This is marriage is a breakup on steroids. If you're going to get a divorce, it's not just I'm moving my shit out. Bye-bye. It's if there's kids involved, forget about it. It's your whole life is upended. It's a major decision. Your family's affected. Your life is affected. Half your crap is gone. So it's a little bit tougher than with just a simple breakup.
Do you think that marriage is outdated now?
Outdated, but it's a more acceptable to get divorced, right? Because like we're seeing it a lot more. It's not taboo.
Would you say that divorces are initiated most by men or by women?
Women, 90% of the time.
Why is that the case?
I think that they yap with their friends, and I think they get real frustrated where guys are like, I'll get to it tomorrow. And I think the women just get in their heads and they're like, all right, I'm done.
There's not much to add here. That's why they say, the smart man doesn't get married. He chooses to live in a common law relationship instead. Marriage loses value for men more and more each day, simply because there's no real benefit left in it. These days, many couples married for 10 years don't even share a bed anymore. There's no intimacy, the woman gains weight, becomes hard to deal with, and it all ends in divorce. Did you know that divorce is one of the top 3 reasons people go bankrupt after age 50? Like I said, the risks are high and the benefits are few. What you can get from a common law relationship, companionship, kids, a shared life, you already have without signing a paper that puts you at legal and financial risk. Why get married if there are no guarantees, only obligations? The smart man today observes and protects himself, because the system is out to destroy you.
This is why I deleted my Tinder and why every single girl watching this needs to delete her Tinder too. This happened a few years ago, and I honestly consider myself so incredibly lucky to be alive after experiencing this. I was living in New York City at the time, and I matched with a guy. For the entire time we were talking, he was really aggressively trying to get me to go out with him. And eventually I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna let this guy take me out on a date. And maybe I'm just being judgmental. Maybe he's not being desperate. Maybe he's just putting in an effort. So the day of the date rolls around, and he tells me that he wants to take me out to a restaurant that is a bit of a hidden gem and is a little bit outside of the city in an area of Westchester called Yonkers. And even though he offered to drive me, I was like, no, it's all good. I actually had my own car in New York City, so I agreed to meet up with him. Now, I feel like an absolute idiot because I didn't even Google this place before I went. So on the night of the date, I'm driving to this place. I put it into my GPS, and it's really weird because as soon as I see it in the GPS, it says that the place is closed. So I text my date and I'm like, hey, I just put this place into the GPS and it is telling me that it is actually closed. To which he replies, oh no, don't worry. They're really bad at updating their hours. This is the part where I should have just been like, oh hell no, and I should have canceled the date. But somehow I decided it would be a good idea to get in my car and drive 40 minutes to Yonkers for a date with a guy. So after 40 minutes of driving in traffic, I arrive at this place in Yonkers. I pull up to the building and I quickly realize that there is nobody in the parking lot and that indeed this business is really closed. Not to mention, my car is the only car in the parking lot. So I start to panic, and as I look behind me to put my car in reverse, I notice another car pull up. This car pulls up right beside me. I don't even look at the person sitting in the car. I just simply back up out of that parking lot as fast as I can, and I get the heck out of there. The entire way home, I am just looking in my rearview mirror to see if there's anyone behind me, and thankfully there was not. And the craziest part of all of this is when I got home, I went back onto that dating app and I could see that the profile had unmatched with me. I never got a chance to screenshot that profile. I never learned the guy's last name, but I can't tell you guys how many times I've heard this happening to girls on dating apps. It's not worth it. Just delete it for your own safety. And if you are going to be on dating apps, please always make sure to get the person's last name and to meet in a place that you are familiar with.
Damn!
What happened to this girl is unfortunate, and I genuinely hope no woman ever has to go through something like that. But we also need to be honest. She saw the signs. She was told the place was closed, that it was far, that no one was around, and she still went. Why? Because she liked the guy, because he probably fit the image she idealizes, and that clouded her judgment. And that's the problem. When someone attracts you, you often ignore the red flags. That's where the danger comes in. The good thing is that she came out unharmed, but it could have ended very badly.
It's Saturday, and I'm tired, so the kids are getting pizza. I be trying to cook, as much as I can, but sometimes I just cannot do it. And today I am so tired. Like right now, I'm just so ready to hop in the bed. Like as soon as I'm done doing this, I'm gonna go to bed. Everybody's gonna get 2 slices, and if they want more, there's more. But we're gonna start off with 2. Come get pizza! Oh, it's just a thick plate. Here. But let's get into these curtains that came today. Thank you to whoever purchased these off the wish list. They are so beautiful, and I really like the way it looks.
Damn!
This woman is being criticized all over the internet. 26 years old and already has 6 kids, reportedly from 6 different fathers. Seriously, didn't she have Netflix or any other way to entertain herself besides giving birth every time a new man came into her life? At this rate, by the time she's 40, she'll have over 10 kids, and with any luck, she'll remember all their names. But then they come out with the same old story that it's the patriarchy oppressing them. No, what's really oppressing them are their own poor choices made over and over again. The most important decision in a woman's life is the father of her children. This one has had 6 chances and still hasn't learned.
26 with 6 kids, and you stupid clowns are in the comment section saying stuff like, she just doing the best she can. The best she could do was keep her legs closed when she ain't got a pot to piss in, yet she on baby number 7 right now. She would have had 8. Unfortunately, she lost 1. But at this point, she's procreating and having kids like emotional support dogs, right? Like I heard her video where she explained the reason why she keep having all these kids, and it came down to her needing somebody to love her. I want to give y'all the biggest news awakening. These kids are not dumb. And those days of you simply being a parent, being enough for them to love you and stay in touch with you, stay involved with you, take care of you when you get old, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. These kids are getting older now and they seeing y'all for who you are, right? When they think back about how terrible their life was growing up, how poor they were, how much they struggled, and then they remember that the reason why all of that happened is because my stupid mama wouldn't stop having kids, even though she knew she couldn't take care of the ones she already had. It's my mama's fault that I'm here struggling the way I am. It's my mama's fault that I was put here with no head start on life. Not only not a head start, put me behind the 8 ball, right?
Hey, bro. What? Oh, my God!
Children of single mothers are more likely to struggle compared to kids who grow up with both parents present. According to a study by Fix Family Court, around 33% of children in the U.S. live in fatherless homes, and that number keeps rising. The consequences are clear: greater academic difficulties, behavioral issues, drug use, and higher dropout rates. And that's not all. Father absence is strongly linked to juvenile delinquency, teen pregnancies, and poverty. The numbers don't lie, yet we keep seeing single motherhood being romanticized as if it were some kind of achievement.
8 ball, right? So I had to struggle just to even get ahead to catch up with the regular kids. All because of my mama's poor decision making. And then y'all got the audacity to fix y'all mouth to worry about childless people and what we gonna do when we get old. Y'all need to start worrying about what you gonna do when you get old. What's gonna be your plan B? Because a lot of y'all kids are gonna move out of y'all city. They ain't gonna have no contact with you, and they ain't gonna want to have nothing to do with you. And you ain't gonna have no plan B. You ain't gonna have nobody to take care of you when you get older, because they gonna remember you could barely take care of them when they was children. You brought them onto this earth to struggle. You brought them here so that they could suffer with you. And then when you get old, you think that they supposed to be the one to try to save you. No, it's not working like that. The kids ain't buying it no more, right? They see how stupid their parents are. They see how negligent their parents were. And it ain't gonna be good enough that you was their mama and you put a roof over their head and you fed them. That was the least you could do. And half of y'all, you ain't even really doing that because it's government assistance that's helping you do all of that. Right? That woman, you can tell that's a government assistance place that she living in, and she can't even keep the cabinets clean, can't keep the appliances clean. You at home all day, and you so stressed with all of them kids, you somewhere yelling to get them from downstairs because you don't want to walk your lazy self upstairs to get them down, right? But yet you still popping them out. You can tell in your videos that you stressed. You stressed, but you still popping them out because you're stupid. And y'all can take this video however you want to, but I'm not glorifying no 26-year-old getting on here with 6 kids and thinking that this get ready to be her come up, right? She ain't gonna be no different than Grip Baby, right? We're gonna figure out that it ain't just her poor decision making on having kids. Her whole life is complete chaos, right? She probably just as messy and just as jacked up as Grip Baby, right? But the time will tell as she get more clout on TikTok, because I'm sure y'all will build her platform up like y'all do most people who dysfunctional, because y'all love to watch somebody whose life is worse than yours to make you feel better about your poor decision making. But that's my 2 cents on it.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
There's really nothing more to add. This woman said exactly what many men are thinking. But of course, these same women get offended when a man says he doesn't want to date a single mom, and even less when it comes to raising another man's mistake, or in this case, 6, soon to be 7, because it's not just about a woman's past, it's about the chaos that comes with it. We're not here to save anyone or to be the replacement for all the bad decisions she made with other men. Just imagine walking into that house. 6 kids running around all day, screaming, mess everywhere, and a woman who says she's tired but keeps bringing more into the world. And the man, what's he supposed to do? Show up to that scene for what? To fund the disaster? Because as we all know, responsibility is a woman's kryptonite.
Being a single mom is really hard. It's so overwhelming and exhausting and emotionally draining. I am so overstimulated and overwhelmed, and I just want a break. And I'm not complaining because I love being a mom and I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it's really hard when you have to do it all on your own. So if you have a single mom friend, hug her. Tell her that she's doing a really good job because she needs to hear it.
You'd be better off advising your friend not to leave her husband, to value him, take care of him, and most importantly, work as a team with him. Because what you're living right now, exhaustion, stress, emotional burnout, is the result of not having that team. And no, it's not enough to say, I love being a mom, if every day you're on the verge of collapse. Loving your kids is one thing, but being alone because of poor choices is something else entirely. And above all, tell her to stop having kids with Chad, that kind of guy who brings nothing to the table except his seed. He makes you feel wanted for a moment, but when problems come up, he vanishes. Then there you are, alone, with kids, worn out, and expecting the world to applaud you for enduring. Choosing to be a single mother isn't bravery. It's the price of not choosing wisely.
Y'all do not know nothing about that woman who is 26 with 6 kids and 1 on the way.
Yes, we do. We know she's 26 with 6 kids and 1 on the way. What else do we need to know? I'm confused. We can sum up her entire life as it stands with that information alone. A modern 26-year-old can barely take care of another 26-year-old, let alone 6 children. She don't even got a farm. The only reason people were having 6 kids back then was because they were breeding their workers into existence. The land needed to be tilled. The potatoes needed to be picked. The coyotes had to be dealt with. It was just too much for two people, so they just bred their workers. They bred the farmhands into existence. In 2025, you're just creating babies to struggle in an apartment for no reason. He then goes on to say, oh, just because they're poor doesn't mean they're being neglected. Just off the strength that 6 of them exist, I promise you they're being neglected in some form or fashion. And poverty makes it 10 times worse. He then went on to say, oh, rich people neglect their kids as well. So, how is that an argument?
It's because of men like the first one that women today refuse to take responsibility. There's always someone justifying them, applauding the chaos, telling them, you're doing the best you can, even when they have 6 kids and another on the way, unable to provide for even the first. But the data is clear. 70% of children raised by single mothers end up in prison or have already been there. That was shown in a 1996 study by Fix Family Court. Are we really going to keep ignoring this just to avoid hurting feelings? Yes, we can judge, especially in a time when there's free education, all kinds of assistance, and access to information like never before. And still, we're producing broken generations? It's not a lack of resources, it's a lack of responsibility. Because responsibility is kryptonite for women.
Women.
I was really afraid of becoming a single mom because my husband at the time paid for our whole life. He made really good money. He was in sales. And I did not know how I was going to financially support me and my daughter. I coached, but all of the money that I made would be for like if we wanted to go on vacation or if my daughter needed clothing or maybe 1 month we were tight. So then we would take that money and put it toward like a bill. But he paid for our whole life. Like if I did not want to work, I did not have to. I would cry thinking, I wanted to be a homeschool mom. How am I supposed to go from being a homeschool mom who believes her kid should be at home with her, her daughter should be at home with her, to now I have to go and be a working mom? And what am I going to go do and make a whole living from? And that was one of the most questions that I got asked, especially on TikTok when people first saw my videos. And I worked really hard. I mean, I still work full time. It's a lot, but I have a great job. I love it. And I never got a cent of child support until my ex-husband, he decided recently to move to California, so across the country. I'm in Nashville. So no, I get some, but still not a lot at all, to have my daughter full time because we pay a lot for her school because she's in pre-K. So yeah, but everybody always asks what I did. I got into sales, now out of sales, but through that job, I did a great job currently.
Stop it. Get some help.
In this life, a woman faces 2 key decisions: choosing the right man to father her children and taking care of the man she chose as their father. Sadly, she often fails at both. These days, it's rare to see a child between the ages of 10 and 15 whose parents are still together. And how could they be when 80% of divorces are initiated by women? Women who would rather be single mothers than preserve the stability of a family. They break the home, impact the finances, and jeopardize their children's future, all to end up repeating the same selfish line: I deserve to be happy. Because in the end, the man's effort and the family's stability didn't matter, only how she felt. But as with everything in life, time brings its karma. And we'll see that in the next video.
Being a single mom for me, the hardest part is not the financial part. It's literally like the dysregulation that my child has the majority of the time. It got worse after the dad moved to California. And it's so hard because I have so many great tools as to how to like help a child regulate their nervous system, and like I've done a lot of that work on my own too. It's like no matter what I do, because she feels like so sad and abandoned, it's like never enough. And I know that like sometimes that's just a 3 and a 4 and a 5-year-old, like regardless, which I just feel like that's like not talked about enough as a mom. Like when your child's like always dysregulated and like feeling like a bad mom or just feeling so miserable. It's like really hard for me to admit that it's so hard. And I feel like even before I was a mom, or a single mom, I had these days. But then it's like, too, sometimes you see on social media, like, I've seen so many comments from moms of like, I never needed a break from my kids or this or that. But it's so hard. And I have like a boyfriend, but I still consider myself a single mom because I'm usually with my daughter alone because him and I work opposite schedules, and like I financially support myself. Like, yeah, he'll help with my daughter and he's really great, but like even if then you get remarried, it's like nobody talks about the fact that like they don't listen to that parent because it's not their, biological parent that they grew up with. And I've heard like having a blended family and being like a step parent is really hard. And it's like hard for everybody because even the real parent is like, they can't help, they can't intervene the same, It's so hard. I never like anticipated, like when I got a divorce, that I would do this on my own by myself.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Of course, the little girl is going to feel abandoned. You took away her father, her stability, and her home, all for a personal desire. And the worst part is that now you're introducing a new dad, another man she didn't choose, whom she'll have to adapt to, and who, over time, will want to take on a role that doesn't belong to him. And no matter how many times you say he helps with the girl, or that he's great, no one can replace the bond with her biological father. The problem is that many women make decisions based on emotion, never thinking about what comes next. A little girl going from one house to another, adjusting to different dynamics, surrounded by new people she never asked for. A stepfather today, maybe a stepmother tomorrow. And all of them demanding respect, authority, without having earned any of it. But she chose that path because it was the easiest for her, not the fairest for her daughter. And now she says it through tears. She never thought she'd end up doing this alone. But it's too late. Regret doesn't erase consequences.
And I just feel like so run down. And I don't have any family that lives by me, and none of my friends have kids. And sometimes it's just really, really lonely. But I know that I can't be like the only mom that feels this way, and I'm sure like some moms who are even married feel like this. But it's really hard. And so like we went to a play place today so I could get a break, but then it's like she screamed and wouldn't get in the car, screamed the whole way home. I came home, I'm like, do you want to play a game? Like, doing anything and everything I can, but like nothing's good enough, and sometimes it's just like so triggering. And it's like the most frustrating part is like I'm just left, like the other parent just was like, I'm gonna leave. And it didn't even feel like a valid reason to me. And I'm like, okay, like, I can't control you. I'm gonna do my best. But, like, my best literally is failing. And it's so hard. It was hard being a single mom before, but she wasn't always unwell. Now I feel like 80% of the time she's unhappy, and it's because she misses him and she tells me. So I'm just over here, and I want to enjoy these years because I know that they're gonna go so fast, but I'm not enjoying it right now. I'm so miserable. It's like really kind of embarrassing, honestly, to like sob on this video. I was trying not to cry. But why is being a mom so hard? And why don't moms have like more support? And I felt like this even when I was married too. And I'm sure being a dad is hard too, but I just feel like a lot of times everything's just pushed onto the mom. and we drop the ball, like everybody's gonna drop the ball, and it would be nice if, like, you know, the other parent or the partner could like pick it up sometimes, you know?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I want you to notice something crucial. She herself says, I felt that way even when I was married. That says it all. Because now she cries saying her daughter misses her father. But for someone to miss you, they have to spend time with you, feel your presence. And you, when you were with your husband, probably thought what he did wasn't enough. That you handled everything, while he just went to work. But now that you're handling everything, now that the exhaustion is yours, you realize what it meant to have that man there. He paid for everything, and your money was yours to spend however you wanted. He gave you time with your daughter, and when he came home from work, she probably jumped on him because that was her moment with him. But you were the typical woman in this country who believes that housework is more valuable than everything a man does for his family. And they never stop to think about how important a father is in a girl's life. Ask the thousands of women who grew up without one, who today are broken, in therapy, carrying the weight of abandonment. Because many times, it was their mother who made the selfish decision to divorce, separating them from the only man who would never have stopped loving them.
Women.
Of the mother, Kelly Bryant, she set Kelly Bryant's bond at $250 million. And she says if Bryant is able to pay that bond, she is not allowed to have any communications with her family. You're now looking at the mugshot they were able to get of Kelly Bryant. She is 34 years old, and she is facing 3 charges, that is 3 counts of first-degree child abuse. She allegedly neglected her children in her home for years. What you're looking at now, or about to look at too, these images are graphic, but these depict the living conditions that Kelly Bryant's 3 children were allegedly living in. The living conditions of a 15-year-old boy and a 13 and 12-year-old girl.
But then the judges tell us that what's best for the children is always the mother. Really? Cases like this are the direct result of radical feminism, female empowerment, the breakdown of the family, and above all, the systematic abuse of the family courts. In those courts, the man doesn't matter. Even if the mother is unstable, the system protects her. It's easier to issue a restraining order against a father, force him to pay child support, but never give him the chance to care for his own children. Just looking at this horrible case, you have to ask, where was the father? Why didn't he have custody? Why didn't anyone listen to him? Because in places like Michigan, getting custody as a man is nearly impossible. It doesn't matter if the mother is unstable, if there are signs of neglect. What matters to the system is upholding the narrative that the mother is always the best option. This woman should be rightfully behind bars for this.
It is easier being a single mom than a married single mom, despite the financial insecurity, sometimes housing insecurity, having to restart, removing the second adult from the home and just carrying 100% of the weight somehow turns out to be less stressful and causes less resentment than when you are sharing the house with someone who refuses to contribute. I know we're going to have triggered men jumping in the comments talking about how they work a full-time job, they're the breadwinner, they provide the health insurance, so how dare we say they don't contribute? But the contribution to a home is so much more than a paycheck. In most homes, both parents were working anyway. So both parents are managing their 40-hour work week, and then typically the mom is carrying 100% of the labor distribution within the home. I don't know why we call it distribution of labor when it's not distributed at all. The mental labor of being the CEO of your home, the boss of your entire family, is absolutely draining, and it's stressful. Somehow, when the other person's removed from the equation and all of it rests on your shoulders, it's easier. And I have literally heard from thousands of women in the comments that are saying the exact same thing. They may now be managing 2 or 3 jobs just to provide the same lifestyle for their kids, and they might be back in school full time. but they still say it's easier by themselves.
You know what I find funny? Modern women fight to run companies, to hold high-ranking positions, but they can't even manage their own homes. How is that supposed to work? They'd rather take on 2 or 3 jobs, exhaust themselves, live under constant stress, instead of sharing a home with a man who keeps everything paid and provides stability. Is that really better? And the worst part is, we live in a time where appliances do almost everything at home, yet they still play the victim, saying they carry the whole load alone. They choose it, then complain. That's why today we see so many depressed, unstable kids, desperate for attention at any cost. Girls who give themselves to anyone, who dream only of becoming influencers or selling content on the Blue app, because they lack love, structure, and the presence of their father. There's no figure to instill respect, set boundaries, or provide guidance. Because their parents are separated, because their mother decided to take the father out of the home for her peace. But that emotional decision dragged the children down with it. The sad part is, they chose this path, and society applauds it as empowerment.
Here is part 1 of I was married to a man for almost 20 years and came out as a lesbian. I have been racking my brain on where to start. And what I'm realizing is there really is no beginning. There's not this one defining moment where I'm like, oh, I'm a lesbian. No, it didn't quite happen that way. I think it happened because of a crush, actually. Not the actual becoming a lesbian part, the I'm realizing this is who I am part. The giddy, why am I thinking about her that way? Why am I looking at her that way? Why am I thinking about her constantly like that? Now, my coming out story happened right after COVID because, Lord knows, we were all trapped in our houses. I work from home. I had my son who was learning school from home. I couldn't see my friends. I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do. I wasn't, enjoying life. I was just stressed. And I had no outlet. Well, not at that point in time. So I found myself reflecting. I find myself not being able to run from things anymore and having to ask, why am I uncomfortable? You want to know why I was uncomfortable? Because I was living a life I didn't want, but I didn't know any different. So everything just felt off.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
I have to start by saying that this is becoming more common than people think. From women who experiment and end up going down that path, to others who are simply dragged into that world by a friend encouraging them to try something new. And this isn't just an isolated thing. According to a 2022 study by the Pew Research Center, based on a sample of over 12,000 adults, 7% identify as lesbian, gay, or bisexual, but among young people aged 18 to 29, that number rises to 17%. And when we talk about Gen Z, 23% identify as LGBTQ+, with young women leading that shift. With numbers like that, brother, it's no longer strange to worry more about another woman than a man when it comes to your wife. Because in many cases, as she herself says, it wasn't even something she planned. It started with a thought, a curiosity, a friend.
Here is part 2 of I was married to a man for almost 20 years and then came out as a lesbian. In part 1, I kind of explained how I knew and discovered this part about myself. In part 2, I kind of want to talk about what happened next. This is the difficult discussion because this is the part of my story that I don't really like sharing because I kind of seem like an asshole. Nobody wants to feel like an asshole. But if I'm going to be honest about my journey, I have to be honest about my faults and all the really, really difficult, messy middle that I had to deal with to get to where I am right now. With that being said, this is what happened. It was COVID. My son was learning school at home. I was working at home. He needed a lot of extra help. He was in 3rd grade, and most of the work that they had to do was on the computer. That meant I spent a ton of time talking and dealing with and associating with his teacher. My son's teacher was a lesbian. This is the part where things get messy. You see, I don't really know if my attraction to her had to do with me being attracted to her or the fact that I knew that she was an out lesbian, she was living her best life, and I knew inside certain things about myself that I wasn't expressing outwardly, and I desired that. Either way, fast forward, we became really good friends. We started talking all the time, but on a very like mom-teacher relationship. It wasn't until after my son was done with 3rd grade that we agreed to be friends. We started talking on the phone, we started texting, we started communicating regularly. She was vulnerable and opened up about things in her life, and I was vulnerable and started opening up about things in mine. And before you know it, we are discussing things and having conversations that made me feel safe to reveal my sexuality, essentially. That kind of opened up the floodgates. To be honest, I don't think I'd ever been that vulnerable with somebody in my life, ever. I had never trusted somebody to that degree. I had never let down my walls. I had never shared all of these parts of my life that were extremely difficult to talk about. And somehow it just kind of steamrolled into you're my friend, to I have an attraction to you, to I really have attraction to you, to having inappropriate conversations. And I'm only going into this amount of detail because this is the reality of some people. This is my life. This is what happened to me. This is what happened to my family. And as difficult as it is, I have to admit it. If you've ever been stuck between a rock and a hard place, you'll understand, where you know the actions that you're doing are wrong, but how you feel is right. And when you're discovering who you are and what you want, what makes you happy, those lines get really, really blurred. And then it's like gray. It's nothing but gray. There's no black, there's no white, there's just gray. And I was living in the gray. So if you've made it this far, I appreciate it. Part 3, I will explain kind of how that relationship progressed, and then having to admit out loud what was going on about the affair, and talking to my husband at the time about that.
God damn it! You can't make this shit up!
I've always said that women are emotional beings, which means they base a big part of their decisions on how you make them feel. That's why you sometimes see women who are a solid 10 dating a man who isn't physically attractive, but he makes them feel unique and secure, and she stays without looking anywhere else. In that sense, many women have learned to be more skilled than us. They know how to manipulate with words, how to make you feel special and heard. As we know, they fall in love more through what they hear than what they see. And it's that vulnerability that gets exploited by those looking for that forbidden adrenaline rush. We see it even in the case of the woman who was married for nearly 20 years and ended up giving herself to the emotional closeness of her professor, right when her husband wasn't paying attention to how she felt. That lesbian knew exactly how to take advantage of every intimate conversation, every gesture of understanding, and turned emotional connection into something more than friendship. So while she was looking to feel heard and validated, her husband got left behind. Now, let's hear his side of the story.
Here is part 3 of I was married to a man for 20 years and then came out as lesbian. If you missed part 1 and 2, you might want to go back because there is a lot of important information you likely missed. Part 3, I want to talk about during and after the affair. Where do I start? The affair was 98% emotional. Let me start out with that. And the entire time I was having an affair with this woman while married to a man, there was only 2 occasions, 2, that there was any physical contact at all. The first thing I need to admit about the physical aspect of the relationship is, even though the very first occasion that there was physical contact in any way, it was never sex. It was never about sex. But I immediately knew upon physical contact that this is different. And it was different. I used to be the type of person that would sneak up late after my husband was in bed, so he wouldn't know I was getting in bed. I would lay on my side as close to the edge of the bed as humanly possible, and I would cover up myself and fold up into a ball because I didn't want to be touched. There was a lot of times I'd pretend to be asleep. I wasn't actually asleep. There's a lot of moments I pretended like I was in the mood. I was not in the mood. There was never a point I was ever in the mood. I felt like I had to present this version of myself because that's what a wife is supposed to do. That's what a wife is supposed to do. So I would hide and I would pretend and I would fake that I was asleep. I constantly beat myself up about the fact that something was wrong with me. I didn't really understand what was like going on, why I felt the way that I did, why I didn't want touch, why I would avoid being around him. I didn't get it. And then I met her, and I did. So maybe that was more the clear defining moment. I'm not really sure. Like I said before, I don't really think that there was one. I think it was like this chapter book that was just unfolding page after page. And then there was a sexual encounter. Just one. But do you really need more than one to know? And I really wanted to talk about the emotional of the after, but I think I need to save that for another part. So maybe we should stop here.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
98% of it was emotional. That says it all. From the beginning, she was experimenting, and maybe that woman, just by listening to her, made her feel something different. It wasn't physical attraction that pulled her in, it was how she was made to feel. Everyone falls in love in their own way, sure, but you can't deny that in this case, the emotional bond was built behind her husband's back, while she lay at the edge of the bed, pretending to be asleep, pretending to love, pretending to want him. Now, as a man, this is devastating. You spent 20 years with someone, built a family, had 2 kids, and then you watch her betray you. Not just with someone else, but with another woman. And on top of that, she tells it like it's some beautiful story, a personal evolution, something romantic. But it's cruel. That man was left shattered. How do you fight for a woman who doesn't even want your gender anymore? There's no way to win her back, no way to compete. It's not like he lost his wife to another man. She switched sides. And at that point, brother, there's nothing left to do but take the hit.
Here is part 5 of I was married to a man for almost 20 years and came out as a lesbian. Up until this point, I've shared a lot about my story, and there's still so many things to talk about. Before we go there, the first thing I want to say is this is really hard. Talking about this is hard. It's hard because I have to acknowledge on the way to finding myself, I kind of had to hurt and harm all of these other people in the process. People that I love and care about. I built my entire life around being a straight woman. The way that I dressed, how I presented myself to the world. Every relationship that I was in, marrying a man, having a son, and all those choices I made based on the premise that I was straight. And unless you've been through this process yourself, so many people are so quick to judge. How could you not know this about yourself? Why are you putting your family through this? Why are you putting your friends through this? And it's really hard to listen to all of that and not feel guilty. Because trust me, I already feel guilty. I know that everybody's story is different, but I just wish that people would stop to ask, why didn't they come out when they were younger? What was it that happened in their life that made them feel unsafe to do so, or put them in a position that they didn't even know? It's really hard always defending your why. And I want you to know if you're having all of these feelings, you are not alone. The one thing that going through this entire process has taught me is that there is an entire community of people that have been through this exact same thing. And when I first came out, there was so many responses of people saying, stay for your husband, stay for your kids, you made that choice, you have to keep that choice, you have to keep living that choice. But I made that choice as a person who didn't even know who she was. And would you ever tell a person that's grown and matured and changed in such a positive way to go back to who they were before? Absolutely not. You would tell them, shine, be who you are, be proud of who you are. But we don't always get that response. Somehow people think that we can neatly package ourselves back up and stuff ourselves back in a box. Let me tell you a little secret. Living in a box, it sucks. So yes, it is going to be hard. It is going to be challenging. You are going to have to work really hard at figuring out who you are, being content with who you are, happy with who you are. Because at the end of the day, you are always going to be there for you. So whatever stage you're in, don't give up. Also, on a side note, and I'll talk about this later, if you are not a healthy person, don't go in the dating world. Don't put yourself out there with another person and drag them along if you are not where you need to be. Focus on yourself. Focus on what you want, what makes you happy, and then all of the rest will just follow.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
The same old me story, that she deserves to be happy, that she's discovering her true self. But what hits a man the hardest is seeing how a selfish decision gets disguised as some kind of self-discovery journey. No, this isn't a story of growth. It's a betrayal. You cheated on your husband, destroyed his life, took away your children's stability, all in the name of finding yourself. And yet, you tell it like you've reached enlightenment. People praise you for being brave, but if it were a man leaving his wife and kids to find his happiness, they'd label him a coward, selfish, and trash. That's where the double standard becomes crystal clear. Of course people judge her, because it's not like she lived her whole life suppressing her orientation. She admits it herself. She made those choices thinking she was straight. So then, what did she feel when her husband won her over? When he proposed, was she faking it even back then? Was she lying from the start? Because if you're telling me you were unhappy for 20 years, then you never loved that man. It was never real. It was all an act. And the hardest part for a man is realizing that the woman who stood beside him for 2 decades had already checked out long ago.
Women.
Here's part 6 of I was married to a man for almost 20 years and then I came out as a lesbian. In this part, I want to address all of the women that are currently questioning their sexuality. I think this is a really important part. Are you married? Do you have kids? Are you afraid of what this might mean for you and your kids and your significant other and your family? I know I was. It's scary. I bet you have all kinds of intrusive thoughts, don't you? How could I not know? Am I really gay? Will my partner understand? Will my kids understand? If I do tell them, how are they going to respond? How are we going to make this work? What does that look like? Can we stay married? Do we get a divorce? What happens to my life after we split? What's wrong with me? I remember thinking about all of those things prior to coming out to my husband, wondering what that looked like. But what I had thought about is, what happens if I stay? What does that look like for me? What does that look like for my family? What am I sacrificing? What are they sacrificing? I think once you get to the part that you're certain about your sexuality and you know who you are, there is this deep longing that begins to happen. A longing to love and a longing to be loved in the ways that you need for yourself. There is no way to turn that off. That longing and desire is there because you want more for yourself. You do deserve to be happy. If there's one thing that somebody could have told me during that time when I was figuring things out and I was discovering things, it would be have the conversations. If you're in a relationship, talk to your partner. Don't keep all of that inside. You've already been doing that your entire life. Why would you continue to? Also, that conversation is not just going to happen once. It's going to happen again and again and again. Don't have an expectation in how your partner is going to respond, because every relationship is different and the way that people communicate is completely different. The way that they're going to be feeling, they are justified in how they feel, whether it is anger or it is sadness or it is frustration. Your significant other spent your entire relationship with them under the premise that you chose them and you want to be with them. And the choice to be with them was because you were attracted to them. You loved them for who they were. And not saying that you don't, but the second that you realize that your sexuality is different than what you thought that it's always been, that changes everything. If there's any questions that you have, please leave them in the comments, or if you're afraid of it being public, you can always send me a private message. I'm definitely here to help. My goal is to reach as many women as I can that are experiencing this sense of isolation and loneliness because they feel like they are alone in this, and I'm here to tell you, you are not alone. Nothing is wrong with you. You deserve to be happy too.
Can you imagine if I came out with a speech saying, leave your wife, man, go after that 20-year-old with the hourglass figure, because you deserve to be happy too, and said it like it was some kind of spiritual journey, a personal awakening? That's the same speech, just in its male version. All those vows you took, stability, family, years of effort, They vanish the moment she decides her personal happiness matters more than her children's security and the commitment she once called lifelong. The truth is, many women don't value what a man builds for them. It doesn't matter everything you do. If you no longer make them feel good, nothing else counts. They dress up their abandonment as empowerment. My kids will be fine if I'm fine, they say. But when the thrill wears off, when there are no more new emotions, when the routine with their new partner, who statistically has a higher risk of domestic violence, starts to weigh on them, that's when they'll miss the stability. They'll miss the husband who took care of them, the father who was always there. But by then, it'll be too late. The man, the real victim here, will be left to rebuild from scratch. Stay strong, brother. The best is yet to come. We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, the questions are for you. Do you think this woman made the right decision? How do you think the man must be feeling? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to create more content. Stay tuned for the next exciting video from the wall.